seconds and counting.
What's up, guys? Clutch State Entertainment here, back with another video, and today we will be going over a hypothetical situation when it comes to the Houston Texans and their number 2 overall pick in the NFL draft. And this is all coming just from the recent, steam building up that's been, building up over the course of draft, coverage, and drafts coming up. It's less than 3 weeks now. And let's just get into some things that we've been kind of hearing in the national news. It's not necessarily anything that's confirmed, but it is what a lot of people, either people that know people inside the Panthers building or people that talk to people that are knowledgeable about the situation. And let's just get into something that we heard, like Chris Mortensen, Adam Schefter, and Todd McShay talk about this week. Chris Mortensen, who's a very well-respected ESPN NFL analyst, he was doing, kind of talking about the Panthers pick, a little bit of a mock draft there, and he said that Bryce Young is the pick for the Panthers, saying that they all love him. And, by that he means everyone in the Panthers organization, the building there in Carolina. Peter King, he works for Pro Football Talk, he said that Bryce Young has a lot of fans inside the Panthers building. Tony Pauline, another NFL analyst, said everyone in the building is leaning towards C.J. Stroud. This is referencing the Panthers. But if it was Frank Reich's choice, it would be Anthony Richardson. I know that doesn't have anything to do with Bryce Young, but what it does leave potentially the Texans with is a scenario where maybe they get to pick between Bryce Young and C.J. Stroud. Now, that would be quite the situation there. Todd McShay also had a mock draft where he had the Panthers selecting Bryce Young, and then after that, he said that he believed the Texans would be very comfortable with taking C.J. Stroud. Adam Schefter also said, kind of on a podcast for someone that, posts NFL content on TikTok, he said that he believes the Panthers are going to select Bryce Young. So that is a lot of talk about Bryce Young going to the Panthers. However, with the Texans, it gets a little interesting because while, people like Todd McShay or may say that, he believes Texans will be comfortable with selecting C.J. Stroud, and D'Amico Ryans has even said that, there's 2 quarterbacks at the top of this draft that they like, they're excited about. They're 2 talented quarterbacks. So it sounds like they would be very comfortable with taking, whichever one isn't taking. So if the Panthers take C.J. Stroud, they would take Bryce Young. Or if the Panthers take Bryce Young, maybe they'd take C.J. Stroud. However, there is a possibility of the Texans potentially just going with Will Anderson. And something, for that could maybe look like the Texans select Will Anderson at 2. And then, they also have the 12th pick in the draft where maybe they trade up, maybe all the way up to 3. Who knows with the Cardinals? That's a crazy hypothetical to talk about there because obviously they trade up to 3. You're talking Will Anderson and either Bryce Young or C.J. Stroud or Anthony Richardson or whatever you want to do there. Literally, you can pick whichever quarterback you want. Or you can trade up to 7 with the Raiders, who just got Jimmy Garoppolo, and maybe they want to wait, 1 or 2 more years since they did sign Jimmy Garoppolo to a 3-year deal. Maybe the Texans trade up to 7 and select either, say, Anthony Richardson or Will Levis. Anthony Richardson, Florida quarterback, Will Levis, Kentucky quarterback. Will Levis has got a huge arm. I think he's about 23, 24. He spent some time at Penn State. He transferred to Kentucky. He's been inconsistent, but the arm talent is so visual and just kind of pops out on screen when you watch Will Levis. Then Anthony Richardson, uber talented quarterback. We're talking, Cam Newton level type athleticism, 10.0 raw athletic score from the combine. He went off the charts with his performance at the combine. And we're talking 4.4 speed, crazy arm strength. He's shown some composure in the pocket. The pocket presence is there. This past year at Florida was a little bit rough for Richardson, just based on the fact that that team was not very good. There was a Florida State game at the end of the season where his receivers just dropped a ton of passes. It was really rough for Anthony Richardson. And if you get him in a good situation, I feel like Anthony Richardson could easily be the best quarterback in the draft. He's got the arm talent. He's got the athleticism. He's got all the traits you look for in a quarterback. If you can develop him properly, make him more consistent on every single level of pass, short, intermediate, deep. He's obviously got the arm strength to do that. It just comes down to consistency when you talk about guys like Anthony Richardson, Will Levis. as were in Bryce Young and CJ Stroud, you kind of know what you're going to get there. You know you're going to get a quarterback who's destined to have a great career in the NFL. So that leaves you with a couple of scenarios there. And let's kind of dive into those scenarios a little bit more. Say the Panthers do select Bryce Young. I would say at this point, the Texans are probably 70% we'll draft CJ Stroud. He's our franchise quarterback, yada, yada, yada. Then the 30% is Will Anderson. He is honestly, if you turn on the film, he is one of the best edge rushers to come out of the draft in a while. We're talking, Myles Garrett, Nick Bosa, Joey Bosa type level edge rusher coming out of the draft. He could very well be the number one player in the draft. I think I have him easily in my top 5. In terms of on my big board in the top prospects in the draft, he is the best defensive player in the draft by far. And then something that can also be very intriguing about Will Anderson is the way that 49ers defense has been built, where DeMeco Ryans is coming from. He called the plays there. He developed the players there on that defense. That defense started with its front 4, that front 7. A big contributor to that front 7 was Nick Bosa. Nick Bosa is an elite edge rusher, and he kind of transforms that defense because you're able to rush the passer with 4. When you're in that 4-3 wide 9 scheme, ideally, you're just bringing 4 players, maybe a simulated blitz with your linebackers, or maybe a slot corner off the edge, something like that. But generally, you're not bringing the house every single time. You want someone like Will Anderson, someone like Nick Bosa that can just constantly create pressure and create havoc, and to be able to just constantly get sacks would be huge. And it would really be such a big addition for the Texans defense that has not had an elite edge rusher since really J.J. Watt. And that's what the Texans have really only had in terms of productive edge rushers over there. You've had some other guys like Clowney, Whitney Merciless, but Will Anderson would easily be the second best pass rusher in Texans history if you draft him there. I think that's pretty much a guarantee. I think he's going to be a fantastic NFL player, and is someone that I'm sure DeMeco Ryans loves. But DeMeco Ryans also, he knows that if this team needs this, the team will add this. He talked about how he wanted a linebacker in the 6th round a couple years ago when the Niners did draft Elijah Mitchell, but he turned on the film. He watched Elijah Mitchell and his tape, and he said, "Coach Shanahan, you got to draft this guy. He's really good. This is someone that we need on the team, not the linebacker that Shanahan or GM John Lynch was going to get him." He recommended that they draft Elijah Mitchell, and Elijah Mitchell had 1,000 rushing yards in his rookie season and was an insanely productive player, and it will still be a productive player for years for the 49ers. So DeMeco Ryans knows what he's doing. He's not going to be selfish. He may say, "Oh, Will Anderson would be great for my defense. He'd be great for this scheme." But he also knows that it starts at the top, and it starts at the top of the quarterback. DeMeco Ryans has said all along how he wants to add a quarterback to this roster. I think pretty much everyone in the building is aware that Davis Mills is not that guy. He's not the franchise guy, and you can add a franchise guy right here, right now, at the number 2 overall pick in the draft. So I would have to say at this point, they should be very comfortable with drafting CJ Stroud. I know there is some rumors about David Mulgeta and all that athletes first nonsense, Quincy Avery, because they all delve to Deshaun Watson. But I've talked to people close with the situation, and they have said that there is no issue there. Both sides understand that it's a business, and there should be no issue, no roadblock when it comes to the Texans drafting CJ Stroud. It just comes to, will they actually do it? Will they go with Will Anderson? And then will they potentially trade up to get drafted quarterback? They could very well maybe spend either their 1st-round pick next year or the Browns' 1st-round pick next year that they have, because they do have 2 1st-round picks next year from the Deshaun Watson trade saga, and that's something that the Texans are very fortunate to have that not many teams in the NFL can say that they can do. However, it should be in the best interest of the team to keep as many assets as possible, and that's why when it comes down to it, they will likely just select the next quarterback available. If it's Bryce Young that's selected by the Panthers, they'll go CJ Stroud, in my opinion. If the Panthers select CJ Stroud, no doubt they'll go Bryce Young. But we have to discuss the situation because you never know in the NFL when there's lots of smoke coming out from different sides. I've heard, I don't know if you guys know, Texans cap is talked about how at one point, he really did believe the Texans may very well just select Will Anderson. And Texans cap is someone who's very connected people in the Texans organization. And, when he says the Texans may draft Will Anderson, I'm going to listen to him. So I'm gonna listen to him. I'm gonna, think about why the Texans may do it, and I can absolutely see it. Be a big addition to the defense. But when it comes down to it, the Texans need to adjust the quarterback position, and I believe they will do that by selecting whichever quarterback the Panthers do not select when it comes down to either Bryce Young or CJ Stroud, maybe even Richardson, but it will likely just be Bryce Young or CJ Stroud. And one of those two guys will be the Texans' next franchise quarterback. With that being said, that is all for today's video. Let me know down below who you want the Texans to select at the number 2 pick, and if you would draft either Bryce Young or CJ Stroud. And we'll see you all next time. Peace.